All right, so this is a completely unscripted video, and I'm sure that that's going to backfire in some way, shape, or form or another. What I want to do is actually talk about and show you how I would actually change a project from being having no tests in it to one that actually has tests in it. And if you are unfamiliar, I'm sure you clicked on this video for some reason. Maybe you had actually were searching for videos on TDD, test-driven development. Basically, the goal of writing tests in your code base is to be able to make sure that your code is validated, and so and that you have some level of reliability connected to your code base. So, for example, when you are trying to release a product, you may get some product requirements. And so a product may tell you, hey, this app needs to do X, Y, and Z. Well, as an engineer, it's important for you to not just go and write that actual code to make X, Y, and Z work, but if you would like to, increase the longevity of the project and make sure that it's more reliable, then what you'll do is you'll actually write some tests first that are asserting that this is the type of behavior that I want to happen. And what you do is you write production code in order to make those things pass. It's actually a pretty good book. Not sponsored or anything like that, but it's called Clean Craftsman. And they, the writer actually writes about these things called the 3 laws. And the 3 laws are, the first law is write no production code until you have first written a test that fails due to the lack of the production code. The second law is write no more of a test than is sufficient to fail or fail to compile. Resolve the failure by writing some production code. And the third law is write no more production code than will resolve the current failing tests. Once the tests are passed, write more test code. So in a nutshell, that just means that in this process, you're writing these tests that you can verify that they are failing without the production code. Then you write the production code, and then you will make sure that these tests are now passing. And then it will increase your not only your reliability, but also your understanding of what product actually wants, because your tests are kind of aligning with that. So what I have today, it's kind of funny. I talk about all that, but I've created quite a few apps that don't have tests in them. So I thought it would be fun to actually go and try to fix this. And I think it's more challenging to go and add tests later than it is to actually write tests beforehand. And so on this channel, I think that's the direction I want to go here is, do some videos on doing TDD, like real TDD, writing tests first, and then validating that with that they work after writing production code. And then, but for today, what we're going to do is something a little bit more fun and go into an old project that I've released to the App Store. I'm not trying to promote this app to any of you guys because in terms of who the demographic or the person that would watch this video, I doubt you would use this app. But it's just a silly password vault app that I put on the App Store. And I thought it would be a fun to go in and see if we can start writing some production or some tests and make this application more testable. So we're in a situation where we don't have product team, right? So what we'll do, I'm just going to go ahead and open this app up really quick. Actually, let me show you what we're working with first. So basically, this is sort of like a landing page for the app. There's a couple of screenshots there, but more importantly, let me open up another tab here. There we go. Try to open on my Mac as well, but basically this is the app. It's really simple. There's an authentication screen in the beginning. There's a paywall. There is a section where you can add and remove vaults. There's like adding and creating passwords, things like that, and save card. Like I said, this is unscripted, and this is probably going to be multiple videos because, it's going to take a while to do that. But let's start by taking a look at the project. And I think you should always look at your projects as a product first, and a project. Less a project and more of a product, because most of the time when you're creating software, you're trying to create some kind of product that is going to be used, whether it's going to be sold or not. It is some kind of product to be consumed or to be utilized. So we open up this app here, and it's called Vault Hub, but at the time when I made the project, it was Link Vault. We have some things working in our favor. Looks like I created some enum. This was, January this year. Wow. I really did create this on a whim. Let's try to figure out what the architecture is. I think that's one of the most important things when you're trying to take a project and make it testable. You're trying to go back and say, I need to make sure that we've got code coverage. What you'll want to do is actually just start with understanding the current architecture, the flow of the app, where the business logic is. And what I mean by business logic, I mean any of the logic that is used to actually run the actual calculation behind the UI, or logic that allows for the UI to do its job. So, but anyway, let's jump in here. So we've got the app. This is a Swift UI project. I decided not to do this one in UIKit. Swift UI has been pretty fun, and it's very straightforward. Take a look at the areas here. How did I organize this? Looks like I'm going off of more of an MVVM model, or MVVM style architecture, which means model, view, model, for those who don't know. So I have these view models injected around the app that have some functionality, like create vault. I think this is all going to work to our favor, actually. It does seem that quite a bit of the business logic is inside of these view models, which is good. A project is a lot harder to make testable if you don't, if your business logic is baked inside of the UI. So the first thing that you want to try to do when you're trying to make your project testable is you're trying to get that business logic as far away from the UI as possible, essentially, or get it out of there. That way you can, you can write more tests. Okay, so yeah, this is MVVM. We've got these view models. They're essentially doing all the business logic, which is good. We have these models here. That's good. It's item, there's user, there's vault. There's a data model or data model. Okay, search bar. Okay. I think we can work with this. This is like absolutely live. I haven't really looked at this code since probably around January. Well, at least most of it. I don't think I've looked at a lot of it. No, there's some from a little bit later after. Okay, we have some managers here. That's great too. When it comes to tests, singletons are not very friendly, at least when you're doing end-to-end tests. When you're doing normal unit tests, it's not a big deal at all. And we'll talk about the difference between the two. Maybe that's what I'll do in this video is like talk more about what type of tests we're going to write and get it started. And then also, but also talk about the different paths we could go with writing these tests. Like we can write end-to-end tests, or we can just do punchy unit tests. Doing normal unit tests. I think that's what I'll have you do in the comments. Tell me if you want that. I might actually go all in and just like do the end-to-end tests. I think that sounds more fun and probably more useful for people trying to get promotions, things like that, or you're trying to really stand out amongst your peers. I think that'll be a valuable skill to have. So, okay, I think I've got a pretty good lay of the land here. I do want to see what the views are looking like right now. So if we just start, we start from the top and we look at how this is actually laid out. Okay, starting from the app. And you always want to look at main. I don't know, I'm sure there's varying experience levels watching this video right now. But anytime you're coming into an application that you haven't seen before, maybe you just got hired or something, a good idea is to just go in from the start and start working your way through. That game is maybe more for the young and hungry. If you're like, hot new engineer and you're trying to spice up a older application and you're trying to fix it up, this is a good way to do it. But regardless. Okay, rambling. Main view. Let's see. Okay, so I have this main view here. And I have this on receive, which is paying attention to a notification. Did become key notification. Set window. We have on appear. Okay, all right, cool. So basically, we have the main view that does get loaded, but as soon as this view appears, what we're doing is we're showing the authentication. We're trying to show the authentication window. So attempt to get user. Okay, so when we get the user, and if we successfully get the user, then we should be able to bypass the login screen. And it looks like when I have that information here, we're doing the sync business. Sync is allowing us to pay attention. If you're not used to Combine yet, in Swift, what we do, this is like our publish subscribe situation, where authenticated here is actually the thing that I'm subscribing to. Our yeah, it's what I'm subscribing to. I'm trying to listen to it, and I'll publish changes to it anytime I need something to change. And then the sync method here, it's where I'm listening for those changes because I'm subscribed to it. Like, probably a good time to say like or subscribe, right? Like, if you want more of these types of videos. I think that's basically going to be the way that I'll know that this video is valuable to someone, is if you subscribe or if you like. I have projects that I'm trying to work on to help myself and also other engineers with making life easier for tests. So, but anyway, that's my quick plug. But anyway, we're subscribed to the authenticated property here, which we can see. Is that up here? Where is it? Oh, it's in the auth manager. Oh, yeah. Okay, so if we went to auth manager here and we looked at the authenticated, here we go. So you see it's a published property here. So that means anytime we set this property equal to something, we are essentially publishing out there to whoever is listening that this property has actually changed. So, and in that case, we are listening to it over here. So that's good. Okay. So this is already a pretty good start here. Yeah, how are we going to make this testable? Because what I'm thinking right now is that we are going to start with writing tests for login. Because if we run the app now, let's see what the very first thing that we see. The very first thing that we should see is like a welcome screen or something, or authentication, one of the two. Wait for it. I'm not actually on my M2 Mac. I should be. I'm on an older Mac actually. I think this is like a 16-inch Pro. It's taking forever. So one thing that you may not have heard about, I don't want to make assumptions about anyone watching this video. Who knows? You may or may not have heard about test suites. When you are a shop, engineering team, development team, whatever, that has devoted itself to doing TDD, most likely you are iterating on a test suite, is what we like to call it, especially if you're writing end-to-end tests. So a test suite is basically just it's like code that you iterate on, that its sole purpose is for, testing your application, creating instances of the app and like running it, run through flows, things like that. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to create a true test suite for this application. so that you can see what that looks like. So first thing that we see here is just the sort of the welcome screen. That's cool. We hit continue, and then we've got the little fancy design I was going for. I was kind of obsessed with this like glassomorphic view at the time, but we could sign up, right? Do all that stuff, or we could just log in. And when we log in, I don't even know if I remember what this was. Authentication failed. That's fine. Let's just forget it. Let's just create a new user, right? Because why not? ABC 1, 2, 3 at. Okay, agree. Sign up. Okay. And then we're greeted with the paywall instantly in order to cover the cost of Firebase or whatever. Put a paywall for saving your stuff like to the server versus when you just use the application, we're just storing things locally inside of your device locally, just like cache. We're just caching it normally. So here we are. We made it into the app. There's just two screens. You get one vault as a non-subscribed user, and I don't think you can lock it. Can you lock it? Let me see. Can you lock this thing? Not really. No, you can't lock it if you're not a subscriber. Yeah, and you can't change password. But you can open it up and you can start adding some stuff. You can add a card, account, note. Okay. But we are not. We are adding tests to an old project. Boom. Save, and there we go. Cool. Tap on it, comes back up. Cool. Super simple app. Nothing fancy at all by any means. And I definitely didn't have a designer. I was just trying some things out. And a buddy of mine actually created this 3D design. Pretty cool. All right, cool. So let's start making the test suite. I think ideally the thing that I would want to test is that we are getting to the welcome screen, at least. And so let's start by going over and creating the test suite first, right? So let's stop the application and we will go to the lovely test area here. And Xcode tried to give us some stuff here to start writing some tests. And, this, if we were writing just unit tests, which just test an actual unit of code, this would be fine. But we're not doing that. We're actually going to create a test suite and we're going to write some end-to-end tests where we can assert on an entire flow. Like as a user, I tapped on this, I did this, and I expect to see this happen. Yeah, and so let's do that. So we'll delete that file there and let's make a new file. We'll just use the Swift template here. And this is going to be, the name of the app is File Vault. So we will do FV test context. Or let's write it out. File Vault test context, right? Let me know in the comments if you like my spelling. It is terrible. Okay. So let's get some things out of the way, shall we? So before we do anything, let's start making our class. We're going to use the keyword final. If you didn't know, when you make a final class, we're actually telling the compiler that there's never going to be another version of this class. No one's going to inherit this. This is it. So we know that that's the case with our test suite. We're not planning on subclassing it or anything like that. So this is it. So we're doing a final class, and then we're going to name it File Vault Test Context. And here we are. So I'll just start outlining a couple things, and then I'll go to like a digital whiteboard or something and just kind of draw out kind of the plan of like doing this. We may or may not hit our first test, but that might be the end of this first video here. I know I rambled quite a bit, but definitely want to try to stay focused on what our goals are, and give this into digestible chunks. I know this is a tough topic. So for this File Vault test context, why I call it test context is because you may have multiple tests out there, right? And anytime you want to start a new context or a new iteration of the app running, you would just make a new instance of this test suite. And so I kind of call it a context because within the context of it being constructed or initialized, you end up doing these different things. You know, user tapped on this, user did that, logged in, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I call it context. That's my long-winded answer for that. Also, feel free to add questions in the comments, add questions in comments if you have any questions, interested about anything. Really helps me come up with ideas. So anyway, how we'll organize this. Like most classes, you know, I kind of go off of a standard pattern. I like to have my properties at the top, you know, constructor method or initializer method, and then all the functions come afterward. What's going to be up here? Well, in order to make your app testable, it's easier to make sure that all of your managers and things like that only have one instance when you, construct at the time of construction. And it's important to have, complete control over that. So one way that you can do that is by creating sort of a domain. And this is very popular amongst really stable like Android apps, or it's a Google hyped methodology called domain driven design, or DDD. And what you do is you have a domain, and that domain is where you'll call into from anywhere. where you want to get access to your business logic, or really it's your managers that you're trying to get access to, and any business logic that goes past your view models can go there. But sometimes you might just put all of your business logic there. It just kind of depends on the team's preferences. Now we're terraforming a MVVM model, or a MVVM design pattern app into this testable app. So I'm going to take advantage of what's already here. So in that case, I will be creating a domain. And then after that, let's see, mark this. I'm going to create a domain, and I'm going to create my instances of these view models in that domain. So all the view models are going to be created in there. Okay. And then we'll create some computer properties that are going to access these things. And these view models, we're actually accessing the views essentially, right? Like the view models are tightly, they have a tight relationship with the view. So when user taps on a button, we should be calling into the view model to do the thing that you would do if the button was tapped. So you wouldn't make an instance of the view and call a function on it called tapped button. No, you would make an instance of the view model and call the tapped button method on that, because that's how the user interacts with your business logic. It's essentially through that. You could create UI tests if you wanted to test the view and that the view is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. But what we're trying to do is create tests for the business logic, because that's the more important part. That's the valuable piece of reliability that you want to have. And if you have a true one-to-one relationship, then any of your view issues should mainly be, I didn't call the right thing into the view model, or this view doesn't visually look correct based on, product designs, things like that. So I know that was super long-winded, but you can skip through it if you need to. Okay, so view models here. We would have the constructor method here. And this is where we will probably pay attention to all these different things. We'll probably subscribe to all these different values, view state, stuff like that. Subscriptions, listeners. Okay, and then next we would end up, adding our user interactions. Yeah, it would be like our user interactions and whatnot. Okay. So we are getting there. What we want to do is let's start by creating this let's create the domain here real quick. And I'll actually create it under the main folder that I have here, because it is a major part of this. That was an accident. Okay, let's do Swift file, and this is going to be, what are we going to call this? File vault domain. Okay. Cool. So this is going to be a final class. Because we know we're not going to create another instance of this thing. Let me just double check. Did I ever make it? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. Okay, let's make our constructor method. Okay. Cool. We can go over to our file vault tests, context, and we'll add that here. And we are saying this is going to be the domain, and we're going to require it. And usually in your test, you want to put an exclamation mark. You know, it's different for those who are kind of new to testing. You want to make sure that your tests are failing if something isn't there that it really needs to be there. So you're gonna use the exclamation point quite a bit. Okay, so we're gonna create an instance of, we'll do self.domain equals .init, or we can be explicit if we want to. That's fine. Okay. So with domain here, we are trying to make sure that the domain is very similar to the app, running. It's kind of emulating the app running almost. The test suite is going to, access the behaviors. It's basically going to create the user interactions. It's going to emulate those things. What we're trying to do is get to a proper emulation of different things like app launch. App launched, right? So if the app launched, we would want this, and this to happen. And let's actually, let me give you an example of the TDD. Let's just go right in. I told you that this whole non-scripted thing was going to come back to bite me probably, right? Like, totally is. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's write our first test. I expect to see the launch screen whenever the app boots up for the first time and there's no authenticated user or anything like that. So what we're going to do is create a launch specification or spec. And I better spell check myself real quick. Jeez. I am just that bad. Yeah, I'm failing all over here. Okay. So I'm typing it out correctly the first time. It's funny. Okay. And in that regard, let's do this. Okay. So now we have a new file called launch spec here. And what we can do is create our final class, launch spec. Okay. And, one thing that I think is extremely useful is to kind of set this up for success by like making sure you can create an instance of the app. Like you're emulating the behavior, creating the instance of the app, and then doing the thing that the user wants to do. So, but basically, yes. So what we're going to do is we have our app here, right? And so we have it's file vault test context. We absolutely want to have that there. And then let's make our first test. That should fail. This will be show launch screen. Should show launch screen. Cool. Let me sync. Cool. And I know this isn't a thing anymore. I'm going to freshen up on the new Apple testing suite, but for now it's required to put test in front of it to explicitly say that this is going to be a test. And what we want to do is inherit from XC test, and we need to import XC test in order for this to work. And then this should identify itself as an actual test. Okay. And does it still need a... Yeah, I don't think it should. I think if anything, it may need... I see why I was trying to get us to make a constructor. So anytime you do XC test, you will need to do... there's like a startup and a breakdown of your tests, and Apple had a great example, and I didn't even look at it. It's been a while. I actually use at work a test framework called Spec and Nimble, or Nimble and Quick. But anyway, let's see. What is this again? Is it startup? No, I need to go back and actually look at it. Let's take a quick peek in here. Setup. There's setup and there's tear down. Yeah. Okay. When in doubt, if you're on the newer side and you forget about something, just go into the object, and try to find out, what methods it has available and whatnot. This is Apple's test suite or test framework. So I'm trying to access those things because I'm inheriting from Apple's test class, one of them anyway. So we need setup. Function. And we need tear down. And its setup is where we would do, all right, we need the override keyword because we are overriding the original functionality, although we are going to do super dot setup, oops. And we're going to do super dot teardown as well. Just calls the parent's version because we're inheriting from XE test class. It's just calling the parent's version of that method. .NET. Okay. And I think it really is going to want us to have a nil version of that. And whenever we tear it down, I want to set the instance of the app equal to nil. Okay. We good? Not good? That does not override any. I think it might be a capital U. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So now we can get on to writing our tests. So basically we would do app.launch, app launched, and then we would do XC assert, assault assert false, XC assert. May not be available in this context. This is pretty odd that it's not available. Let me see. XC test. Yeah, that should. Oh. Is it XC assert? Oh, looks like Apple has changed it up a little bit with their framework. And some of my older legacy apps, we were able to just, we were writing XC assert, but I guess now we just have assert. So what I would like to assert is that the, well, I'm going to put false here. But I want to assert that the app should show launched screen. Oh, or welcome screen. Welcome screen. Cool. Okay. Just gonna build this. Actually, we need to build the tests, which aren't showing here. Manage schemes. We'll definitely want a test scheme in here. Okay. No, turns out they don't really want us to add this. Okay, let's put test. There we go. Unit test bundle. That's what we need. Okay. Okay. And actually, we're not using Swift testing, we're using XC tests. So we're going to switch that. Here we go. All right, so one thing that we're going to need to do to adjust for this is Command Option 0 and let's see. Yeah, we need to make sure that these files are recognized by that target. Those files don't need to be recognized by the app target, but the test targets rather. Now we should be able to add it here. Yep. We're doing it live, I guess. Cool. Now we see the diamonds showing up like I expected them to. But it's probably good, like, even though you could skip around this, you know, to get to the point, obviously. It's probably also good to see the experience of, like, you know, fumbling through and like figuring some of these things out. You know, my company, I currently work for a drone company, and we use a completely different test suite, our test framework, in order to write code in our test suite. So going back to XC test is a bit nostalgic. But I digress. So here we are. App launch doesn't actually do anything, but let's make sure this actually works. Okay, so as you can see here, it doesn't know anything about this domain class that we have over here. If you're new, it's basically just because we need to do like an at testable import of the actual project, which is link file, or yeah, link vault. Huh. I would expect it to show up there, but all good. I guess it recognizes our actual app name, but all good. So now, let's see. I'm going to do Command U to test, to run my tests. I expect this to fail here. Hats off if you have stuck around till this point. it's really good to invest in this skill, mainly because this is a very sought after skill. It's also something that will keep you in the running a lot longer with this new AI paradigm. I mean, I actively use AI in my own career at work with helping with my code. Like it's basically a coding assistant. But the thing is that you need to be able to write test code, or at least instruct AI to properly write test code on your own. And those who have this skill of understanding how to validate product requirements is super valuable. Like, it can't be understated, or else you're going to have like tons of bugs. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be depressing to like work on some projects. But if you can learn to write validating code, where you write tests that closely resemble what your QA or quality assurance team is testing, then you have more of an alignment with them. And also there won't be any surprises about regressions, and there will be less things that you'll miss because you're actually testing end to end all of those different issues, all of those different feature flows, adding this, doing that, customer did that. And then as soon as a test comes, or as soon as a bug comes around, what you can do is write a regression test that makes sure that there's a low chance of hitting that issue again. So anyway, it took a while. Next time I think I might do this on, assert false. Oh yeah. Let's be explicit here. We are using XC test. I'm curious if this will work. Yeah, this looks correct. Okay. Assert true. No, it really wants to do a completion handler here. That's very odd. Expression. There we go. False. It's great to include a message in your tests as well. A lot more dynamic than what I just did here, but cool. Let's run this again, and this should definitely fail now. So it's looking like next video, I'll go ahead and I'll get on like a digital whiteboard or something like that and start going over the big picture really quick. And then we'll come right back in here and, make this test pass properly. Start building out the scaffolding and everything like that. Start building up our test suite. So that we can make sure this works. While I'm running that test again, so domain, we didn't really do anything with it. Give me a failure, give me a failure. Yeah, this is not giving me a failure. I would expect it to. Assert true, and I'm passing false. Interesting. Oh, it also gave me this example. No, I don't need this. Command Shift J, and then let's find out where this is at. Let's move these over into here. And let's get rid of this. That is no good. Like, we should definitely be getting a failure here. Assert condition false. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a newer method created by Apple. This should definitely make it fail. Oh man. No, still not a... That is pretty hilarious. Let's see, assert. That expression is true. I wonder if it still recognizes that as a test. No, it doesn't. Okay. Assert false. Well, we're still getting a success. So I'm going to do a clean Command Shift K, and we'll do another refresh, see if this works. Very odd. I'm not even getting... I should be getting documentation on this thing right now. So there might be something up. Very weird. Well, it's doing its thing building. We got pretty far, so what I think I want to do is call it here. And I think next time what we're going to do, make sure that XCTest is working as expected, because this is weird. This should definitely be working. And it could be a bad version on Xcode. I know with work, this was a very troublesome version for us with our test framework. But regardless, the same principle here applies. Like, we're pretty much setting up to be able to call methods into our context that is emulating the behavior of the user going through a certain flow. In this case, it's just the app launching and not authenticating. And we should be seeing that the screen is still, the focus screen is still the dashboard. Now what we do here is basically just replace state var domain with v domain, and we would do when a new instance of this, we can do a domain. Maybe in the next video, I'll show you why I'm doing this. Optional equals nil. Actually, there's not even a need to do this. Right now, I think we're good with just .NET. That's fine. We would move this into our domain, the focus screen. Be one of the first things that we move there. I'll actually turn this into a published property. Import combine. And then right, we would need to change this to be domain. Let's try and make this a little easier to read. There we go. Okay. All right, so domain, we'll want that to be observable object state object. Then actually it would be this. Okay, and I'm just gonna do function app launched. And the only thing we'll do for the function app launching, gosh, I was silent for a second. Focused screen is going to equal dot welcome. Well, and actually, I don't even need to. There's actual logic that needs to happen in order for us to determine that the welcome screen is the thing that's showing. So we'll save that. That's going to be what we'll end up starting with once we get back to the code. Other than making this work, obviously. But app launched here, you can see we'll be able to do app.launched. This is kind of that, basically that behavior we're looking for. Let me go in here. I like to make these methods, domain. Async, so that we can wait on them. And be sure that we're waiting. We have the correct kind of order of operations on these things, so I do like to be consistent with that. So we're waiting, we're doing that. Okay, and basically now the what we want is the app dot domain dot, what is it? The focused it would be focused screen. Let me go back here. Let focused current. Now let's see, consistent focused screen. Via screen. Okay, and then we're going to return the domain dot focused screen. Cool. Yeah, that'll have to be a var. That's fair. Okay, And so after app launch, what we would do is we would grab the focused screen and we would say the expected screen is equal to VH. Oh, right. Okay. This is where things get tricky because you don't want to be importing your app for test everywhere. It's kind of unnecessary. What you'll want to do for now, what we're going to do is go into this enum. We're going to make it inherit from string. Okay, and so the raw values of these things. That's fine. Yeah, that's a good one. Fine. Let's create a computed property. And this is going to be screen type, or this will just be screen. We'll make it a string, and we're going to do a switch off of self. Let's get some free code there. And just do a little trick here. Control option is what I'm doing. Let me see, what am I doing? Control shift, just muscle memory. So that can affect multiple rows. Self dot raw value. Well, no. So what I want to do is grab that text, go down to this row. Don't want to do self. I want to create a string, paste that there. And the last one there will be an exception, and it will be false for a later test .name. Cool. So I want this to equal the welcome screen. So that solves our problem because I don't want to have to import file vault into our tests. I want our test to be as clean as possible and not have to know it should be as dumb as possible for the most part. So when I do my expected screen here, I'm just saying, hey, I'm expecting at the time that I'm writing this test, I expect that the screen that we're on is the welcome one. And so here, this is where I would do expected screen is equal to, let's make this a bit more readable. Okay. Expected screen is equal to the focused screen. Cool. App should, and so for our message, if it's a failure, we would get this message, but got and then we would put what the actual focused screen is. Dot screen. Oops. let me just make this adjustment real quick. Screen. Yeah, screen. Cool. That should return actually a string instead. There we go. And then we don't even have to do this anymore. Just focus screen is just going to be a string that we're getting from that computer property. We can compare these two properly because they are both strings, and yeah. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to run it, but I know that we're still having some test suite, our test framework issues. So anyway, this was just showing how we can start transforming an app that has no tests into an application that does have tests. And we're trying to transform the app. We're not trying to add just unit tests, right? Like unit tests would just be asserting that a specific class works properly. Still didn't get a failure. It should have been a failure, I believe. But we'll check on that next time. So there's the two different types of testing that you can do. One is unit tests, where you write units, and I can talk about that and go over that in a different video. And the other is where you're doing end-to-end tests, where you create an entire testing suite around your application, and using your framework of choice, your test framework of choice, you can actually do some assertions that if you did X, Y, and Z in an app all the way to a certain point, then you would get a expected result. So I know this is a long video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe and comment down below and let me know like what else you would like to know about this, or if you have other questions. If you have questions, that would be helpful, so I know where to take this in the next video, and I can go over some more visual things. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. Take care.